Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to one and all present here. Your presence is of great pleasure to us. We are here for our 26th trialogue 2047, a series of intellectual encounters that envisions India's journey and development in 100 years. And today our focus is on circularity in action. We're using the hashtag trialogue2047 for all our social media posts. I would like to call Dr. Swayam Prabha Das to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues. I'm Swayam Prabha, and I'm with Development Alternatives and leading the policy and the research domain. Today, we have gathered here as part of the 26th Trialogue 2047, the flagship event hosted by Development Alternatives, a platform that aims to create a shared understanding on structural changes required in our economic, political, and social systems. We stand at a crossroads today where our future hinges upon the conscious and responsible choices we make as humans and as organizations. In the light of this, the focus of today's discussion is circularity in action, plastics management for cities of the future. And I would like to say here that circularity will be going beyond plastics. We're going to look at communities. We're going to look at policies. So today is going to be a very holistic and an integrated approach to how we can plan and have better cities for the future. And achieving the circularity is not just a choice, but it is a necessity to ensure that anthropogenic activities and the impacts are within the planetary boundaries. Circular economy advocates responsible production and consumption patterns, curbing overconsumption and minimizing adverse environmental impacts. By embracing circular practices, cities are enabled to reduce waste by promoting recycling, enhancing resource efficiency, which is all vital for the sustainable urban growth. And this is also envisaged in the SDGs that we all are so familiar with. It directly contributes to climate action as well by mitigating carbon emissions, conserving resources, and fostering eco-friendly innovation, partnerships, and just transitions. In essence, circularity emerges as a linchpin aligning diverse SDG goals, fostering sustainable development, and combating climate change. In this pursuit, we seek answers to fundamental questions. Why is it essential for future cities to embrace circular economy principles, and how cities can integrate resource-efficient strategies in their governance? We delve into the alignment of India's effort in plastic waste management with the UN SDGs, prioritizing specific targets in plastic management, and how do we build circularity in the cities. This event, Trialogue 2047, is not just a conversation. It is a collective endeavor to find sustainable solutions, to unravel the complexities and navigate the path towards a future where our cities thrive within the boundaries of our planet. We have our esteemed panelists joining us today who will bring unparalleled knowledge to the table, poised to deliver actionable strategies for integrating circular economy principles in urban governance, solutions for managing the plastic crisis, and guide us towards sustainable practices. Thank you all for being here to be a part of this transformative dialogue. Together, let us chart the course for a greener and more circular future. And thank you, sir, for joining us and taking time out from your very hectic schedule, sir. Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Das, for setting the tone for the trialogue. It gives me immense pleasure to invite Dr. Ashok Khosla, Chairman, Development Alternatives Group, to deliver the opening remarks. Dr. Khosla does not need any introduction. However, for the younger generation, I would like to introduce him as a globally renowned environmentalist. He has been co-chair of the UN's International Resource Panel, president of the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, and president of the Club of Rome. He was a member of the Government of India's National Security Advisory Board and Scientific Advisory Council to the Cabinet. For his contribution, he was awarded the OBE by the UK government, the UN Sasakawa Environment Prize, and the Zayed International Environment Prize, among many others. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jasmine. Can you just signal that you can hear me and see me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you loud and
Very,
clear.
very good. On a personal, thank you. On a personal note, I wanted to say that since I've been to every trialogue that we've had, all 26 of them, I didn't want to miss this one, but I got suddenly hijacked yesterday to come for an emergency meeting in Jamshedpur. And if I sound out of breath, it's because I ran the last mile and arrived on my screen literally about 2 minutes ago. So please bear with me. I just wanted to share with you an extension of what Dr. Swamprabha Das just said, which is that the issues of the cities that we're dealing with, including circularity and sustainability, are very complex. They cut across sectors, they cut across institutions, they cut across age groups, they cut across genders, and frankly, we're not making enough headway during the past 30, 40 years when we've been addressing these issues, and we need to speed that up. If the SDGs are going to be met, if the climate change goals are going to be met, if we're going to deal with biodiversity in the serious manner that it needs before so many of our species go extinct, we really do have to change the way we're dealing with these issues. And that means that we've got to become a little more systemic, not a little, but maybe a lot more systemic in dealing with these issues. So we started these trialogues about 8 or 10 years ago with the thought that we needed better communication between governments and business and the people, civil society. The citizen has in a community as much right to have a say in the design of his or her future as does anyone else. And so we wanted a platform where we could bring together people who could listen to each other and also tell each other what their viewpoints were. And in the case of sustainability issues, this becomes doubly important because of the different dots that I was talking about that need to be connected. In the case of circularity, we're talking about issues relating to birth to death, to birth to death, and that means from the point of view of civilization and point of view of development, we're talking about from design through implementation, through disposal, all the way back to redesign and recycling our material resources. And this is something that may have come naturally to traditional societies, but no longer holds because of the way our industrial civilization has been configured over the last 4 centuries. So today we hope to talk a little bit about circularity and sustainability in the field of waste management with particular reference to plastics, but you can't deal with plastics unless you deal with all the other issues as well. And therefore, I hope that the outcome of this discussion will look at the various different kinds of interactions that we need between the different subsectors. In waste management, this would include organic waste, it would include various other kinds of recyclable waste and non-recyclable waste. And all of that basically needs to be looked at in the whole, in a holistic way. So I'm very glad that we can meet. I'm sorry that I'm 1,000 kilometers away at this time, but I will be listening to the discussion on Zoom, and I hope that you will have a very productive afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khosla, for very informative and thought-provoking words. I now invite Shri G. Ashok Kumar to deliver the keynote address. Shri Kumar is the Director General of the National Mission for Clean Ganga, Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India. Sir has been very passionate about water conservation And as Additional Secretary and Mission Director, National Water Mission, he made many innovative initiatives in the water sector management. The most prominent being the Catch the Rain campaign. We're indeed honored to have him join us today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. My subject is water. Plastics is generally, I generally, even though we have huge problems of plastic, because all of you are aware that National Mission for Clean Ganga deals with cleaning of Ganga and its tributaries. And most of you would have seen black water in Yamuna and things that that is what should be clean. Yes. We also have a very formidable challenge of the plastics and the n number of plastic waste which come through the drains to our river. So that's why I'm connected with water, but I am very much connected with circularity of water in a very big way, because it's equally important. So I'll deal a little bit on the circularity of water and then move on to the plastics a little bit, wherever I can know. Now, National Mission for Clean Ganga is a flagship program of the government, which looks at looking at water cleaning of the Ganga River. And in the last 8 years, we have actually had a fairly good amount of success, which is recognized by UN also. The UN last year in December 2022 recognized National Mission for Clean Ganga as Namami Gange as one of the top 10 eco-restoration flagships of the world. This is essentially recognition for 3 important parameters they were looking at. It's a UN-led organization by UNEP and FAO and other UN-based organization. They had conducted a survey of about 170 projects and marked on the basis of the halting of the environmental degradation, reversing of environmental degradation, and with people's participation, and restoring the biodiversity and getting back to the old stage of environment. On that scale, we were ranked 3rd in the world, which is a very, very unique honor for us. Now, some of the things which we had done at that time for getting this award was actually trying to ensure that the dirty water does not come into the river, the Ganga and its tributaries, and also see that the water which had been flowing into the river as sewage, as runoff from the agriculture fields, as effluents from the industries are tapped and then treated and put back to the river. So in the last 8 years, we have sanctioned about 37,000 crore worth projects, mostly on the sewage sector. And fairly large number of drains have been stopped from flowing into the river. And many of you are aware of the great Shishmao Nala in Kanpur. Kanpur happens to be the black spot of river Ganga, mainstem Ganga. And I'm very proud to say that this has Kanpur has dramatically improved, and probably in another 1 or 2 months, when 3 or 4 of our major initiatives get going, it's almost 100% complete, and we are in the trial run phase. So we will have a major improvement in the water quality in Kanpur, and this is also seen in the increase in biodiversity. So if you talk about chemical parameters and say that water quality is good, we also have a certificate from the natural living beings, the dolphins and the otters and the gharials, etc. The number of dolphins have gone up from about 1,000, 2,000 to about 4,000 in the last count. And the gharials have increased number of times. The fishes have increased, which means that the water quality is much better, breathable for them. And also the number of people visiting Ganga and then commenting on the quality of water has also increased a lot. So that's the good part of it. Now, coming to the circularity part of it, I think the biggest natural circularity is the Catch the Rain campaign, which we did. Catch the Rain campaign is basically to ensure that the rain is caught where it falls, when it falls, and then used for our purposes, and ensure that we don't run out of water. Due to climate change, the rainfall pattern has changed, the intensity of rainfall has increased, number of rainy days have decreased, and the urbanization has actually left less permeability of the soil, and hence the groundwater not getting recharged, which in turn reduce the availability of water in summer. So tankers were pressed into service, and our pumping costs had gone up, and all sort of things were associated with water was there. So we introduced this circularity of water, of catching the rain and using that stored water for meeting the summer. So basically, you can see that very interesting circularity here. In India, we have water, excess water, floods, and tabahi during winter and rainy season. And down line, 4 months later, when the summer comes in, you have people standing in line for getting the water, and probably tankers running all over the place. So tanker mafia taking over those months. So if this can be connected somehow, the heavy rainfall in the water, and store it where it possible, and then take it up during during the summertime, a circularity is established, and a lot of problems can be solved. And this is a very simple solution, because all we are asking is to catch the rain where it falls and when it falls. That's one of the circularity of it. Now, going beyond that, the other major impact effort we did in the circularity sector in Namami Gange was under the concept of the Arth Ganga. Arth Ganga is a concept given by the Prime Minister to make the river people connect. So when you're talking about sustainability, things are all will be sustainable only if there's an involvement of people. No matter how much government presses, no matter how the ruling disposition presses it forward, unless the people joins it and thinks that it is their movement, things will not be sustainable. So the Arth Ganga concept was based on that, and one of the things we are pressing for is the recycle and monetization and reuse of water and sludge. Now, why is reuse of water important? So many of you are aware of the 3 R's of water: reduce, reuse, recycle, which is applicable for other resources also, circularity. We added 2 more. The one is called recharge of water and groundwater and rejuvenation of rivers. And the 5th R, which is the most important of art as well as water is concerned, was the respect. We want people to start respecting water, because if we start respecting things, we don't waste things. We waste water because we don't respect water. ये तो मुफ्त में मिल रहा है, कोई कुदरती देना है, आते रहेंगे. That is the feeling we have. So we introduced this concept of the 5th R of respect, and other 3 are very important for the circularity part of it. So we in Namami Gange had come out with a policy for national framework for safe use of treated water. That means the water which we flush out every day from our toilets, from our bathroom, from our kitchen, etc., goes out as black water or gray water, and it goes somewhere we don't know where. We are not bothered where it goes. The moment we flush, we are forgetting it. So we have now taken steps to take students to our STPs where the water is treated and then made better, to ensure that to make the children aware and the students aware of what happens to the water they flush down. The water which is coming to the sewage drains is now, we are intercepting it and then taking it to our STPs, which is generally known as sewage treatment plants, which I have renamed it as Nirmal Jal Kendra. With the pun intended, Nirmal, all the mal has been removed and good water will be taken, and that water can be used for all non-potable purpose. We can make it for potable purpose also, but then you don't have to spend too much of money to make it potable and drink it, because abhi tak wo naubat abhi tak aaya na hai ki pani to baras raha hai, so we get water for drinking. Now, we are wasting a lot of water in non-potable purposes. Where is it? Agriculture. 85% of our water usage is in agriculture. Good if it is used in agriculture properly, but unfortunately we use it at 30% efficiency. Our water use efficiency in agriculture is extremely poor, where when a farmer in America uses 700 liters of water to produce 1 kilo of unit of paddy or wheat, our farmers use 3,000 liters of water. Why? Because we believe in flood irrigation. The other extreme is the Israeli technology of precision irrigation, where they give the exact quantity of water using artificial intelligence and technology, IoT device, and give you that exact 1 drop, 2 drop of water, so that the water goes exactly to where it goes. And whereas we have a situation where we flood the field and say, jitna pani le lo, baki wahan rehne do, koi baat nahi. Wo rehne do pani actually leads to weed growth, which we have to employ labor to weed out. So, and that's again a problem. So this we are now trying to do a circularity in water by trying to substitute the good water which we draw from the rivers and the aquifer to irrigate the fields by this treated water from the STPs. Anyway, all of us will take bath, all of us will flush down the toilet, and it will come every day. So this water, which is available throughout the year, can be treated and used for non-potable purposes. And we will save a lot of water which is abstracted for irrigation purpose. Our rivers, why our rivers are not flowing? Because we are drawing maximum water by constructing a dam for irrigation purposes. So if we can use this treated water, substitute it for non-potable purposes, probably we can let good water flow in the river. When good water flow in the rivers, our ambience improves, our biodiversity improves, fishes improve, all these things happen. So non-politically say, I would say that अच्छे दिन at least पानी में आ जाएंगे. Now, that's one circularity. In industry, we have taken up a lot of circularity. In Kanpur, which is a center for tannery, we have introduced a lot of measures where we are actually recovering the resources from the water. Because water is universal solvent, so chrome and other salts which are used for leather, etc., gets dissolved and it's actually wasted. People used to push it down the Ganga river, that's why it's black. So we have ensured that that is tapped and taken to our CETP, and that is in the trial run now in Kanpur and Unnao and Bandhar, where there are the major units. So there the water is actually treated and resource recovered. So the addition or the requirement to the or injected to the cycle is much less because you are using 80% of the recycled water. That's one, we reduce the abstraction. We have also taken up process reengineering and efficient methods to improve the water efficiency in industrial sector. So many engineering process like for paper and pulp industry, textile industry, and power sector have reduced the consumption of water by 50% there. So that's again an improved version of circularity. Now coming to the plastics, this is with the last 3 minutes for me. Plastics is a big nuisance for us also because it actually makes the water look dirty. Even though we clean the water, good water is flowing down the river, and if you have all those white plates and plastics floating in the river, it makes look very, very dirty. And so it is a major problem for us in the social media because every fellow goes and takes a photograph and says, "Ye ho gaya ganda, nahi ho gaya," karke. But the water is probably good, only the floating trash is the problem. So it's a major problem for us. We are actually working with the Ministry of Urban Affairs to work on the plastics or solid waste which come in. The solid waste is another major issue, and in that solid waste, plastics is a major chunk. So major chunk which is creating problem for us is the plastics, the plastic cups, etc., which we now started throwing out. As Dr. Khosla was telling, we had a tradition of reuse. 15 years back, I was telling my son, 20 years back, we were experts at recycling because हमारे एक ही थाली था, थाली खाने के बाद साफ करके रखते थे, फिर use करते थे. Now abhi kya ho gaya? We have a plate every time we eat. A plate comes in, we throw it out. This is a paper plate, and we have increased the load on the environment by using use and throw culture, which is actually resulting in our environmental degradation. So this use and throw culture, which we have imbibed in the last 20 years, is probably creating a lot of problem. And I am told in that the plastics has a major role to play. Plastic, again, I am told that it is the total waste in the world today is double the weight of all the living mass. I'm really amazed to see that statistics. But then this plastic will remain in our ground for years to come. It will actually block the flow of water. If you have plastics lying in the earth, probably it also do not let water percolate down. So when you catch the rain has to go to a aquifer. If there's plastic underneath, it will not go down. So plastic is again a menace for us. And second is the single-use plastics which float into the river is actually eaten by the fishes. So we have a problem in the fishes and dolphins having so much of plastics in their stomach. And all of you are aware of the plastics in the ocean, where the ocean whales and other fishes are getting terribly affected with the plastic which flows into it. Now, coming to the recircularity of plastics, we have worked out with the municipal corporations that whatever trash they collect, they should be used for recycling purposes. We are also incentivizing them to set up. Incinery is probably not the right solution, but new technologies, pyrolysis, etc., are coming up, which is not creating more greenhouse gases. So that type of recycling part we have taken up. And we also in the process of working with labs like Solidarity and other international agencies who are also looking at how the industrial waste can be recycled and reused, and plastics is one of them. So there is a lot which we can do for the environment, for particularly plastic is concerned. Our Prime Minister had been talking about it from 2018 onwards. He had banned he said that he will ban the plastics, single-use plastics, and 22, the plastics have also been banned. I think June 22 it's been banned. But some of the packaged material, multi-layer plastics, etc., which are actually large percentage of the plastic use in the country are still out of that single-use plastic ban. So I have seen the huge dump of plastics on Uttarakashi and all, where tourists, because another interesting thing is that now we are all mobile, we want to move tourists every day. We have thousands of people going to Uttarakhand, much more than the carrying capacity over tourism. These are all something which we can talk about later. So all these people who travel to these places, to Chardham, all these people, they leave behind a lot of plastics. And that plastics actually flows down to the rivers because it just flies around with the wind, and comes to the river and creates problem for us. So Namami Gange, from my side, I would like to have all the plastics being collected and kept where at least so I can concentrate on cleaning the water rather than running around the plastics. So I hope that this conference on circularity of plastics will really address this issue and make my life easy to clean the river. We'll be focusing more on cleaning the water rather than picking up the plastics in the water. So I thank the organizers for this important issue, an issue which actually we were brushing under the carpet, and we were very happy when the plastics came probably 100 years back. And now look at the situation we are in. With everywhere we have plastics, and we have more and more problems coming out of plastics. So I hope that the ban on single-use plastics will be implemented properly, and there'll be more and more solutions coming out. Because there are 2 or 3 points which I find is that we are not able to find a suitable substitute for plastic. When we ask them, people don't use plastic, then kya karenge? So we have to find out a low-cost solution for alternative to plastic. We have to find out how plastic can be disposed of, because it's the age of scientific revolution. Probably innovation has to come, how we can use it, how we can probably reuse it for purposes so that new plastics do not come into the picture, as I was mentioned about the water. So there's a lot of cross-learning possible, and hope that this type of intellectual stimulation would result in better utilization of resources, better utilization of the money, and better recycling and better circularity of economy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable thoughts. I request you to stay back for a while, sir. No, we'll just fill the stage. Pat, if you can join us. I request all the distinguished guests, our panelists, to join us for a group photograph. Please, sir has to leave. Just take it from there. Thank you so much, everyone. Shashank Patara, CEO Development Alternatives, will moderate the session. Pat, I request you please take over.
Thank you, Jasleen. Thank you all for being with us here today. My position here today is, not really that of someone in development alternatives, but that of a moderator, because that's the only job I have, which is to, make sure that we have a lively discussion. We have an illustrious panel, and I'd like to just introduce them very briefly and invite them to the stage. Dr. Lakshmi Raghupati is a former director of the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change in the Government of India, and currently a visiting faculty at the Terry School of Advanced Studies. She teaches solid waste management, waste utilization, industrial ecology, and guides several students in their doctoral and postgraduate research at both Terry University or the Terry School of Advanced Studies and the Amity University. Is an advisor, consultant to many programs, and holds a PhD from BITS Pilani on studies on the environmental exposure in zinc and copper mining and metallurgical industries. Her specializations include health impact due to environmental exposure and waste management. Dr. Raghupati has over 30 years of experience in the areas of waste utilization for resource recovery and waste to energy and environmentally sound recycling. She's also a resource person in the Swachh Bharat Mission exposure workshops. Dr. Raghupati, could I invite you, please? A big round of applause. Prabjot Sojiji does not really need an introduction because he's one person that I think most, if not all of us, have met at some point in our careers in the development sector. Sodhi Saab has infused energy, given life to a large number of organizations in the various capacities that he's held or positions that he's held over the years. Most notably in the small grants program of the UNDP, where we as an organization, and I know many others, are grateful for the support that you provided. And of course, all of the work that you've led at the Center for Environment Education. Sodhi Saab has experience working with many donors, including the largest of multinational corporations, multinationals, etc. But once again, I think it's his love for grassroots action that we've seen over the years, which has inspired many of us, not just in cities, but also in tribal, rural areas, etc. He's authored toolkits that have been, used all across the world. And of course has been noted for his work in many fora. In 2012, he was awarded the Talented Conservator Award by the George Washington University in the US. And then in 1998, he was awarded the Most Excellent Order of the Member of British Empire, an MBE, by the government of the United Kingdom. Thank you so much, Sodhi Saab, for being with us today. May I invite you to... and it's a pleasure to have you with us, Paramita. Paramita Day is the head resources and waste at the National Institute of Urban Affairs. She's a city planner and has around 20 years of post-qualification experience, having worked with ministries of the Government of India and internationally funded projects of the UNDP, Canadian CEDA, the World Bank, ADB, USAID, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She's been engaged in a number of policy initiatives in the urban development sector, particularly on infrastructure, urban poverty, and environment issues. As a core member of the research team at the NIUA, she has gained expertise in policy review and formulation, project monitoring and evaluation, and urban poverty reduction strategies. Paramita is presently working on evidence-based research and advocacy for urban policy and practice with sanitation as the focus. Thank you, Stay, for being with us. Please. Paramita, may I request you to move one chair and push this just so that I don't have to remain standing. Yeah. Is it okay if I sit down? Yeah, okay. Just make it more friendlier, I guess. We have an hour and a half, give or take a few minutes, and the idea was to make this exchange as conversational and as insightful as possible, and we'll sort of keep going as various questions come up. Towards the end, or actually hopefully well before the end, last half an hour or so, we hope we could engage in a dialogue with members of the audience here, many if not all of whom have a deep interest in the area, but also have rich experiences that we might be able to benefit from. So very briefly, I mean, for your initial thoughts, if you could share your thinking on why, because that's the question that most people ask. And on the one hand, while it might be self-evident that we need to manage plastics and manage plastics waste, the evident nature of it is not translated into, concerted action. We have isolated action taking place, within civil society organization, some municipal corporations, some private sector, entities that have taken the initiative, but we're still very, very far from what could happen, particularly if plastics waste management, got into the governance structure and the processes of cities. So why do we need to do it? Why is it so urgent? And if you might want to add why it hasn't happened. Dr. Akpati, if we could start with you first. You'll need to pick up the mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I should thank Development Alternatives, with whom I had been associated for the last 3 decades. And we have worked together in many areas and from the ministry. And further to that, also had been associated with them in the circular economy and the resource efficiency programs. So now the issue of plastics, because you have we talked about circularity in action. So that is one first advantage that I find here, because if we talk of circular economy, everything cannot be fitted into the pocket of circular economy, because circular economy is a big subject, Pandora's box, which has not been really opened up. When we talk of circularity, one of the things that comes to our mind, as the previous speaker said, we have traditionally a lot of things which we recycle, reuse, and we try to recover material, and we keep it in a state of affairs so that it doesn't go into the garbage. So that is a inborn culture and inborn habit in India. So we were, when 3 decades ago, when we were talking about recycling and recovery of resources in the international forums like UNEP, I was one of the Indian representative, both in the technical session as well as the negotiation session on the Basel Convention. First thing we struck in 1995, saying that no, not all wastes are to be discarded. Many wastes can be recovered. So because here we said that we can apply other things. When we talk of plastics is something which we created about 100 years ago. That's what we know. And today the plastics, we find it as menace, because we do not have the proper governance for the plastic, number one. And even if we have beautiful regulations. The first plastic waste regulations were published in 1999, and then later on it was amended and it came to be functional after some time. But plastics is there everywhere. If I talk of any waste stream, the solid waste stream, there is plastic. Biomedical waste stream, there is plastic. Electronic waste stream, there is plastic. So which plastics do we address? There will be some fraction of plastic because we have made plastics our lifestyle. So at this juncture, it's very difficult to say no or abandon plastic, but we have to see how do we make it more effectively manageable. First of all, one of the things that we have taken, the Prime Minister's initiative of 2018, and I was in the thick and thin of that particular session, where we said we'll phase out the single-use plastic. That's one practical step that we can see, because the main garbage or the main unsightly things that we see about plastic is the single-use plastic. And still, in some practices, like medical practices, we cannot do away without the single, because we feel that after one use, it should be discarded. We cannot carry on the infection from one person to another person. So there is some inevitability in some areas, but by and large, if a natural tendency to use plastic in such a manner that we can take care of it after the consumer usage. So that is what is lacking in our system. The thing is that we have put the business in circularity. We have said that there could be recycling, and you know, almost 30% of plastic is getting recycled in the informal sector. But the recycling is not done properly. That is one thing. But in fact, if we have a proper collection, the big players are not coming into the main reason being they don't get quantities to recycle. So I'm also an advisor in the packaging organization called Foundation for Innovative Packaging and Sustainability. And in that, we are talking about this packaging plastic. And packaging plastic is the maximum plastic which comes in our as eyesore to us. So we are trying to see, can we remove plastic from our medical things, our medicines? Those are all packaging done in a very hygienic manner. We can't do it. Food packaging, certain types of plastics really give longer shelf life to the food. So we can do it. So there is always an obstacle saying that it's not possible. But let's make it possible. So two things which we sorted out in the last RESPAC, we had a responsible packaging program. We had last June, next June we are having, in which we just drew certain conclusions, in which first we thought, one is we have to phase out, there's no alternative, we have to phase out the single-use plastic. Second one is that whenever we are using plastic, we should ensure that it comes back to the product producer so that it is able to go into proper recycling channel. And if we are able to recycle and single family plastics, for example, the polyolefins, if we put all the polyolefins together, the polypropylene, polyethylene, and polystyrene, not polystyrene, polyethylene and polypropylene and others, which will form a homogeneous material which can be recycled. And last but the least, one of the things which I'm teaching also, we found plastic has a good potential for energy production. Plastic source is naphtha, the same naphtha from which we are producing petroleum, diesel, kerosene, etc. Plastic source comes as a byproduct of the petrochemical industry. So it has the potential to be recycled. All the are for producing energy, and that produces, so that is also recycling. You convert plastic into energy. Of course, as the previous speaker said, we should not be having a polluting technology. One of the most sought after technology is the pyrolysis, and pyrolysis has really given a good edge for the plastics to be used, and very high energy production. And pyrolysis produces the gas, the syngas, the multiple gas. You have carbon monoxide and hydrogen as gas, which is also good for transportation and otherwise. The second one is liquid. You have the biofuels and bioliquids. Then third, bio-oil. The third one that it produces is biochar. A pyrolysis will give complete degradation of plastic to give products. So if we can opt for such technologies, and we need to introduce this holistic approach to reduce the use of plastic basically in the intake, and till we have a good substitute, we will always go for plastic. So when we have the first solution is, let's use the plastic. and use it in the best way, best possible way, without polluting the environment, without causing harm to the water bodies or the land. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, please feel free to applaud as often and as enthusiastically as you like to. Thank you, Dr. Raghupathi, for those remarks. And if I might say so, an optimistic view, because there are so many possibilities, and I think you ran through, quite a few of them, but there'll be many, many more. I also think your reference to how we need to segment this sector or the different kinds of plastics or plastics waste is very important. The fact that you might need to aggregate so that it becomes viable for certain players, the need for standards, new technology, etc. All of that points to view that we can manage this and manage this positively and productively. In fact, it just struck me because we're so used to saying plastics waste management in development alternatives. I was very happy. It struck me as you were speaking that we've dropped the word waste management, because plastics waste management would presume that there's nothing you can do before the waste is generated. But as you pointed out, there's actually quite a bit, that's possible. So, Paramita, over to you. Your thoughts in terms of what, the key points are that we need to keep the spotlight on if we're talking about, plastics waste plastics management in a more, creative, constructive way, looking at circularity. Please.
Okay. So, like Dr. Raghupathi said, that it's not waste, but it's plastic per se. I also believe that we have to look at it from a more holistic point of view. And since I work a lot with city governments and ULBs, so the concept came to my mind that why not encourage cities as being circular. So if we are looking at the concept of circular cities, plastic being an integral part of it, then we look at certain basic visions that the city should have. So some in principle things, like if you look at circularity or circular economy, we were just debating why talk about circular economy, but circularity, then there are three basic principles. One is we design out waste. The other is we keep products living and using for a longer time, and we regenerate our natural systems. So having those principles in mind, if you're looking at a city, so we need to encourage the city to have, a city has so many plans, a transport plan, a waste plan, a development plan, a master plan, everything. So if we integrate circularity in all those plans, then we would be looking at a few things. One is look at a modular plan for anything that we use, so that if something is not working, we just replace that product. Then we look at emissions, of course. If you're looking at waste, emissions is a directly we are reducing the emissions when you're looking at waste. Then we look at innovative business models. Like there are so many educational institutes that are working not only on innovative products, but also innovative business models. One easy example would be, say, for example, we are all buying so many new cars all the time, and we're looking at newer and newer models, new phones. That why don't we rent these out? We use a house, we rent out a house. Why don't we rent out a car? So today I'm driving a Creta, tomorrow I drive maybe a Mercedes, and my aspirations are also getting fulfilled, and circularity is also getting ensured. So even if I am aspiring to be somebody driving a Baleno, and I was earlier maybe driving a scooter, so my aspirations are getting filled. Circularity is being ensured. So why don't we look at these innovative business models? Then we look at reverse logistics. So PET bottles, for example, we are collecting them. So why not incentivize the reverse logistics? For PET bottles, we are looking at certain incentivize. There's these machines and you get a coupon out of it. So why not look at such innovative models, and plastic again gets reduced, recycled, refurbished, and all of that. And finally, if we are doing all these are a few examples that came to my mind. And if we do many such practices, we're actually getting into a circular approach towards our way of living. And I think that should be the thinking going forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The example you gave about cars, leasing them or renting them, that sort of set my mind racing because it would probably reduce the number of cars, that need to be manufactured and the amount of plastics, etc., or other materials that are in those cars. I don't think, we've thought of doing that. Just like we change our clothes, maybe change your cars every week. But again, I think it highlights the importance of creative thinking, that there are lots of areas which we could explore, which once we look at things holistically would, have an impact. And you're not just trying to fix the problem, but you're looking at the entire system, underlying issues and of course opportunities. So Disab, if you could share your thoughts, and then I will ask you to continue with one question that I think everyone here has been grappling with, and of course outside the room, which is how do you get people to work together? And you've had some, unique and rare insights in terms of public-private communities, etc. So after your initial thoughts, if you could just kick off the discussion on that one specific aspect, I'd be grateful.
Thank you, Pat. And good evening, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I think thanks for the kind introduction, by the way, so kind. Paramita was talking something about idling of resources. What she is trying to say is that the idle resource is not put into the fashion of working, so this is not getting the right spot. Anyway, coming to, you rightly said so on the circularity principles, that realizing the value from the resource or putting the value to a resource and then realizing it is what is circular economy, waste minimization, and idling of resources. In cities, we are getting, Pat, she's talked about cars. हमारी शादी होती है ना हिंदुस्तान में, और हम जाके आजकल जो शादियां हो रही हैं वो जाके बड़ी अच्छे ऑर्नामेंट्स बाजार से ले आते हैं हायर पे, rented. In Gujarat and in many cities in Bangalore, people have now come out of the box thinking. They are giving rented clothes. You can go and change a pant also. So, you can give your pants and they will be put to use and you will get some money into it. So rather than what the economy is coming is that resources are finite. Why these thinkings are coming? Why these thinkings are coming is because the resources are finite. They are not going to grow. And we are hoarding those resources. We are holding on to them for years together. And then they are idled up. When I was saying this, in material consumption, if you say why circular economy really began into the whole system in India, it's about 10, 12 years back when Government of India was looking at that, India has the highest extraction rate. You would be surprised. India has 1,620 metric tons per acre. नीचे से निकाल रहे हैं हम resources. The world average is 487. We are 4 times more. Why? Because, and the present government, congratulations to them, great work, that they are trying to say, okay, why are we taking up resources? We have to remanufacture them. Let's not export minerals, but let's make in India program. And that's where the focus is. Make in India is nothing but circularity, using material resources in a very effective manner. So that's one aspect of the things which cities need to focus. मुझे कभी-कभी मैं जब शुरू में waste में आया ना, Paramita, you are very experienced. Dr. Lakshmi is extremely arrogant. India has fantastic policies, as she said so. And I was in the morning with a private industry conglomerate where they were talking on packaging. Anyway, I'll come to that. So, जो मैं बात कहना चाह रहा था कि cities में geographies are very diverse in India. It's not one fit for all. It's not going to work like that. मैं ये कहता था, सोचता था कि एक सिटी बनाया, उसको वार्ड्स में बांटा, हैबिटेट्स बना दिए. हैबिटेट्स में ये कहा गया कि उसमें सब मार्केट भी होनी चाहिए. अच्छा, there are 35 sectors. There is RK Puram, there is this and there is that in Delhi. In every part of the city, we have habitats, and those habitats need to be having service industry to service them, the needs of the people. Schools, hospitals, colleges, markets, every habitat has all these things, and you go to the minimal distance to get the benefit of these services. Then why not waste? Why we have to centralize the waste into a system that it goes there into a corner and we keep on plying trucks up and down? If modern cities are there, you see, India can never match. Amit Love was there in the morning and he was saying, you see, Indian EPR system is not based on the government of all the world EPRs. It is totally different from them. How it is different, if chance be, I'll speak on it. And Amit was very right in saying from MOEF, he said that, you see, the world is seeing us. In seeing, India is the first one to come up with mission lifestyle. And that's the toolkit which you were talking, and I've got it here. The lifestyle, managing your lifestyle is actually what the government is looking for. That is on consumption, mindful consumption. Second, we are having the green credit program. It's India which is leading the world in defining. Today, 2 notifications have already come. One on the forestry, how the green credits can be claimed, the other on water. That has already come, and it's beautifully defined. Others are also coming. We have got the fastest EPR on used oils. You know, so used oils I'm talking means lubricant, not cooking oils. But the point which I'm to drive to you all is that today we have to see the opportunities are in abundance, how we can make best use of them. Coming back to that example, and I'll close within 2 minutes, is that if there has to be decentralized system in our life, then why are we centralizing certain things? Why cannot we have small hubs? जो कि हम क्या बोलते हैं, ढलाओ बोलते हैं मैडम, ढलाओ जगह जगह हैं, वहाँ informal sector है. Informal sector तो कर ही रहा है अपना काम. Why can't we legitimize them? If we give them power and legitimizing them, what are we doing? You and me, we are all finding ways to legitimize them. KG, ULB ke saath, I was starting to work with 2012-13. We were the first ones in India who signed agreements with the urban local bodies in cities. Ke hum aapke saath baat karenge. Then I was in UNDP and we were saying we will set up MRFs, material recovery facilities in cities. And hum chota sa karenge, 5 ton ka ek jagah pe. We only need 100,000 households. 100,000 households, which includes markets and schools and others. And that will be about 5 to 7 tons of plastic waste, which is about 6% of the total MSW, or now it is 9%. And what I'm trying to say is that that can be well managed by them. We need to organize the informal sector in a city in a way that they get empowered. It's people who are going to do things. It's not me. We can make the best of the policies. We can make the best of the intentions. But it's the people who are ultimately going to, we have to empower the people who are as users, how to segregate our waste, how to really use mindful consumption. Arey bhai, how to recycle. Hum to Hindustan. I was just in UNDP 2016 and I was talking on circular economy. Somebody said, "Ke sir, ये तो वेस्टर्न फिनोमिना है, हमारे ऊपर लाद दिया गया है." मैंने कहा यार क्या बात कर रहे हो, अब आप ऑर्गेनाइजर और आप मुझे ये सवाल पूछ रहे हो तो मुझे अब बोलना ही पड़ेगा. मैंने कहा ये कोई वेस्टर्न फिनोमिना नहीं है, इट इज ओनली पैकेज्ड इन इंग्लिश. हमने सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी नहीं सुना था. एम आई राइट परमिता? वी हैड नॉट हर्ड दैट इन पैकेज्ड इन इंग्लिश. अभी मुझे कोई हिंदी का बोलने का शुरू करेगा सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी, मुझे नहीं पता, लक्ष्मी जी बता देंगी क्या होता है, पर मैं नहीं बता सकता. मुझे रोज सुनता हूँ पर भूल जाता हूँ. But our habits are so, we don't, what are the principles? She said, minimization of waste, we don't waste. हम एक कपड़ा टेक्सटाइल का ले लेते हैं, उसको भी इस्तेमाल करते रहते हैं जब तक वो फट नहीं जाता है, या बच्चे का बड़े का छोटे को डाल देते हैं. आजकल तो एक ही बच्चा होता है तो दूसरे का सवाल ही नहीं उठता, तो हम किसी को दे देते हैं या घर में इस्तेमाल करते हैं. मेरे को ये एक बड़ा जबरदस्त वो पर्स और कार्ड देके गया कोई, these are from the waste textiles, you know, so how they are using, putting value to it. This is all circular economy. ये हमें किसी को बताने की जरूरत नहीं है, हम तो already करते हैं. And that is what is Mission for Life. That is what is Green Credit Program. And so the point which I was trying to say, that if only we all realize how to empower the last mile and how to make them part of the journey. एक minute ले लूं और फिर I'll come to your other question. Extended producer responsibility आया, EPR आ गया प्लास्टिक में. मैं अभी सुबह ही बात कर रहा था. EPR प्लास्टिक में आ गया. PIBOs, that is producers, importers and brand owners, they are obliged to collect the plastic which is in the market that they are bringing. They have no choice. They have to do it. और उनकी सिस्टम बनाया गया, हम भी पार्ट ऑफ दैट थे. तो सिस्टम बनाया गया कि जी इनका वेरिफिकेशन और ट्रांसपेरेंसी कैसे होगा, ट्रेसेबिलिटी कैसे होगा. चलो जी रिसाइकलर इनको सर्टिफिकेट देगा. पहले बहुत सारी गलतियां हुई लोगों से, वो बहुत सारा प्रॉब्लम हुआ. ठीक है. नाउ द ब्रांड ओनर्स आर गेटिंग सर्टिफिकेट्स फ्रॉम द recyclers and there is a trade happening. वो ब्रांड ओनर उससे बात ही सीधा ये करता है, तू मुझे 50 पैसे में देगा, वो मुझे 25 पैसे में दे रहा है, तू 50 पैसे में देगा, 75 पैसे में देगा. मतलब क्या हो रहा है ये? There is no investment being thought over in the ecosystem that कि कहाँ से लोग लाएंगे वो प्लास्टिक, कौन कलेक्ट कर रहा है, क्या हम एक MRF बनाएंगे, क्या हम एक सिस्टम बनाएंगे, वो कोई बात नहीं करनी. तू मुझे बता कितने पैसे में देना है. Is this what we meant EPR? This is a question to be asked. And it is not only going to be in this, it's going to be in every sector, whether it's used oils, whether it's rubber and tires, whether it's electronic waste. We are having EPRs coming in every place. And they are all coming in the similar fashion. But hats off to the Ministry of Environment, fantastic work. Government of India, fantastic work. But we have to see that how we are losing the last mile.
Absolutely. In fact, the second part, I just like to move a little bit forward into the discussion. The other question that I asked you about partnerships, let's try and understand that within something which you did explicitly, but I think Dr. Raghupati and Paramita also referred to, which is at the national level, you've got fairly progressive thinking. In fact, one could argue world-leading, breakthroughs in terms of policies. And yet at the other end, when it comes to, what's happening on the ground in cities, it's disorganized, it's informal, etc. Clearly, urban local bodies have a role to play here. All three of you have said that they shouldn't, even if they could, they shouldn't be doing it on their own, because they need to work together with the private sector and with community groups. So how do you bridge this gulf between progressive thinking and a lot of chaos through effective local level partnerships?
So, Pat, you're really asking the right questions. You're stimulating us. You're really stimulating us. And I'm sure people at the set of that side are also getting stimulated. Now, partnerships. Partnerships always will be only successful with one premise, and that is that your interest is not the only interest which should be kept in mind. If a partnership is there, then the other person's interest and their well-being and their importance should also be kept in the same respect. It was really wonderful to hear Mr. Kumar, who was the DG NMCG, who said we add the word respect. What a thoughtful idea. Dignity and respect to the people down the line. We never thought. We were talking all time, but we never thought that could be an R in the system. Wonderful. Hats off to him. So partnerships, we lose partnerships because we want to hold our own interest. मेरे को पैसा मिल जाए ULB से, मेरे को प्राइवेट पार्टनर से पैसा मिल जाए. अरे वो पैसा दे क्यों रहा है भाई? उसका इंटरेस्ट भी तो देखो. And if you start seeing the interest of the partners, the interest of the partners stimulates action, and action delivers results. Results delivers impacts, and impacts delivers success. There can be a bit of fallouts here and there, and this whole is circular. When you see one success, you see to the other success. और हमने ULB से भी partnerships किए. We did the service providers, selection of service providers. That means the waste processing agencies, those who were with the ULBs. Every person is made to do a good thing. I need not emulate what Pat is doing. I just need to partner with Pat. Come on, Pat, you do this. I'll join you. I'll do what I can do best. You do what you can do best. Let's reach the goal. If we can think that way, and this is what we do with people in the last mile. You know, when I go into the villages, I'll take a minute and a half, then I'll pass it on. I go into the villages and do plastic waste. I do with Jal Shakti Ministry, with the Ministry of Jal Shakti. And what we do in villages, how the collection systems and all. उनको नहीं पता कि आपकी क्या पॉलिसी है. गांव वालों को हम इकट्ठा कर लेते हैं. अरे यार तू ये कर दे, तू वो कर दे. What we do is we draw a map. We use the social mapping exercise in the village. We draw a map. This whole exercise takes 4 to 6 hours. And then we define कि कौन लोग कहाँ है. सब लोग सोच रहे हैं कुछ मिलने वाला है. मेरा घर छूट गया जी, मेरा ये है, मैं यहाँ रहता हूँ, मेरा घर नहीं इसमें दिखाया. Everybody is talking and you are just doing little bits. And people are drawing. You give it the chalk in their hand, they will start spraying. And the other person will come, नहीं नहीं नहीं, ये रास्ता बंद हो चुका है, तू इसको ऐसे लगा, तो वो उसको ऐसे लगाएगा. Whose participation is? People. Who is taking the decision? People. Who is doing? People. Who is benefiting and deciding? People. Then we are just facilitators. Why do we want to become the controllers of everything? We decide within 2 minutes everything. कौन कचरा collect करेगा, कहाँ से करेगा, कहाँ waste का center बनेगा, क्या चीज बनेगी, and it's such a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, Lakshmi ji, yes, exactly. I wanted to come to you because, in a sense, what Sodhi Saab described is an ideal situation, and you know, in villages we've all seen that happen in many situations. Why does it become complicated when we are talking about cities and towns? Yes. And are there gaps? Are there too few agencies? Are there too many? What might be the
First of all, I don't know, because how many people out here have been to really a village and stayed there for a week or 10 days? So these have chhod ke baki. Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm owning about 9 villages in Tamil Nadu. And this was led by our previous president, Dr. Abdul Kalam. He has done some work. He said, Lakshmi, what is your contribution to it? When I go to these villages, I find circularity already exists. I need not tell them what is circularity. Nothing comes out as waste. Everything is circulated within the system. Everything happens in a natural process. Of course, now they are sort of influenced and invaded by these plastics and other things which we are taking it to them. That's why they're worried. These things are going to harm us. So naturally, the systems which we should follow, because when I used to talk about recycling 30 years ago, I used to talk about rural India. The villages in India, which are self-made recycling activities. So there is nothing coming out of the village because everything is organic matter, everything gets absorbed within this. So there is a natural process. But now for earning better livelihood and other things, they migrate to the cities. As a result, when you said about the cities are a little bit overcrowded. One, the space-wise, you will see more people than what you will see in the rural areas. If you have to walk miles and miles and miles in hot sun or heavy rains or in cold weather, if you go to the northern villages. So, but in south, of course, the climate is always good. So you can always walk down miles. So in all those villages, every unit, that village by itself is sustainable. They have circularity. Every unit was introduced with this system for themselves, like having their own gobar gas plant. That was one thing they have implanted in almost, because every house, she was asking me how to make the competitive approach, you know, because if something is negative, they go for competitive approach. But when it is positive, nobody wants to imitate, you know. We ape the West. We are imitating the West by bringing this throwaway plastics, throwaway society. But in our nature, we are not throwaway. Even my mother, myself, we never throw the containers and all in which something comes in one go. We'll keep it, use it, reuse it, recycle. And then once it becomes something, if it is a plastic, it touches the heat, then it melts, so you have to throw it. Otherwise, if it is glass, it breaks. Otherwise, we use it. So that's in our culture. That's built in our culture. One, in the rural areas, even in the city, the middle class or the modest class really adopts for it. We have certain tendencies, but we have not advocated that by bringing the terminology, as Sodhi said, circular economy. And today also, we should not use the term circular economy. There's nothing economy about it which we can talk, which we can claim, because the economy means money management. In the money management, our best circular economy principle is applied by our kabadiwalas. We give all the things that can be recycled to kabadiwalas, but our economy is failed there because we take money for that. Can anyone today onwards volunteer that I'll give the waste as well as kabadi paisa to him to recycle it properly? Then things will start working. We don't have finance generation. If you look at the original circular economy, which Ellen MacArthur Foundation had brought in, they said the money and material should go parallel. Ours is money, and money goes this way, material goes this way. And we, for a greed of 100 rupees, we give the cell phone to an unauthorized person who takes it and does something which is dangerous because there are hazardous materials in it. They're not aware of it. So we only do the thing. We are the culprits. Law is wonderful. There is a lot of, we have plethora of regulations, but we don't follow because we still say, okay, auction. The big houses, the big bulk generators of electronic waste and plastics and all, they even the auction. In government department, I used to see the auction myself. I was in the government. Furniture, cloth, curtains, your computers, everything will be auctioned in one go. So that auction will actually track it to that. So first thing is we should organize. Whenever they used to make the rules, first thing I'll say, how have you organized the collection point? Sodhiji told about MRF. MRF is again a sophisticated term. And at the time when 2013 to 2016, we were battling for the new set of regulations with Urban Development Ministry. We were sitting in Vigyan Bhavan doing our exercises. We said, MRF is something, the Dalaus have to be converted into MRF. That is the place where your informal sector comes scouting for the waste. Then they are good. Their sight is good. Their hands are good to sort. So their sorting will help us to channelize the waste for recycling, reuse, and sometimes they even take it out and put it for reuse. So why not we use that potential? And Madam Sheila Dikshit in Delhi government, before all that, when she was the chief minister, she agreed to do that. She issued token to every kabadiwala. You know about it because CE was also involved. Every kabadiwala was issued a token, and only the person with token will come to collect kabadi in your house. And if he says this kabadi will not fetch anything, you have to give him free of cost. That binding was there, and he will not take electronic waste. The rest of it he will take. Plastics he'll take, metal he'll take, paper he'll take, glass he'll take, bottle, everything he'll take, but he will channelize it. And because he had a token, he used to go and deposit the kabadi in one place from where it will be channelized to the specific things. But it lasted only for 1.5 years. It didn't last much because there were cross references. People started taking out of it and taking even the bin which was kept in Sheila Dikshit's office for putting e-waste. We all dropped something there, a mouse, a wire, and mobile and all. Next day there was nothing there and only pan sputun was there. Everybody has removed that, and we know how to recycle. We know how to extend the life of the product, but we are not in organized manner. We don't follow the rule of the game. Even traffic police, they are so stringent, but we have the pleasure of crossing a red light. And somebody will, especially the two-wheelers, they just, sorry if there is any two-wheeler, don't feel offended. They'll just say, oh, foolish lady standing there, old lady, let me go. And he goes, he dashes, he dashes across the red light. He is able to successfully go, but one time it may not happen. We are worried about his life. So they're not having fear. So we always want to circumvent the regulation. But one of the lacuna in the regulation, whatever regulation it is, whether it's plastic or EPR, you know, that is cosmetic thing. But the other inside thing is we have not helped the system to be established where there should be collection. Even today, we are struggling for the urban waste collection system. Whether it will be collected, how, when once it is collected, how is it going to do? Then you talked about decentralized activity. Still, we are not prepared to follow decentralized activity. As I told you in villages, I advocated that your own cow will give you your gobar. Don't make it into kanda or anything. Just put it in a bin. There was a bin introduced. Even their sewage sludge was connected to it. So they were getting ample biogas. They were using all their chulas and all this, even the gas stoves were introduced to them villages. You can go and see Kalanjeri, you can go and see Tirunelveli, about Ambur, Ambasamudram. I can give you half a dozen villages in South India. You can go and see. So many people have done that kind of a work on the ground. But unfortunately, I didn't get much of course, Professor Abdul Kalam had built toilets. He was encouraging me with this. So he used to walk with me from one village to another to really educate people, saying that this is not bad. Your own system is bringing out the mull, which is going to be used into a gas, and the gas is produced and you can use it. So that is the circularity that exists. But we are again cutting them down, giving them cylinders, LPG cylinders and all. I don't say that our Prime Minister has encouraged that, but definitely that only we should fill the gaps. Right. But originally, we should establish systems then and there. So that is a decentralized activity. On top of it, their circularity is still in place. But there is no law behind it. There's no need for a law if you are disciplined by itself. The laws are only paperwork. So if the paperwork is, we can do away without the paper, and we can be disciplined ourselves, nothing like it. So every citizen has the responsibility. Why only EPR? Why only producer? Why you and me cannot be responsible? We are using the electronic gadgets. We should be responsible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Let's, I'd like to bring the audience into the conversation in about, 8 to 10 minutes from now. So let's just take stock, try to take stock of where we are. As far as people are concerned, communities, I think, we've established there's agreement around the fact that Indian society, socially, culturally, we've, recycled, we've reused, etc., for centuries, I guess. And yet there are also instances where we can be extremely indisciplined. I thought it was quite profound, the thought that you said, where money has to follow material and not, be the other way around. And can we, induce behavior of that kind into people? We've also, I think, touched very briefly, but significantly on the fact that entrepreneurs, right, whether they are small local entrepreneurs or whether they are larger companies, will move in whenever they see an opportunity and they see a business case. And therefore, I'd like to spend a few minutes on the third very important player here, particularly the urban local bodies, because at the end of the day, all of you have used the word system, that there needs to be a system in place of whatever kind. Systems need to also be managed, or at least that's the way we've set up our institutions and our governance structures. So Parimita, as far as urban local bodies are concerned, where in your work or at the NIU's work have you seen the need for strengthening? Where are gaps that need to be filled? What can be done? Is there capacities? Are there capacities that need to be built, etc.? So if you could just touch upon the ULBs for a few minutes, I think that would be very useful.
Yeah. So yes, of course, there is a lot of capacity building that is required at the level of the ULB. Now, ULBs are of various kinds. So the larger ones have capacities, they have people, they have resources. It's the mid-tier ones where the population is from 10 lakhs, 5 to 10 lakh population is what we call the middle-level cities. And the ones that are even smaller, that are below 5 lakh, they are the ones struggling, whether it is about manpower, person power, or it's about resources, funds, functionaries. they are struggling with it. So what they need is, of course, building the capacity in terms of knowledge and skills, and also hand-holding to implement what they learn. Say, for example, we do a lot of capacity building workshops and trainings. And we always, and both Dr. Sodhi and Dr. Raghupati have been part of our training programs. So and we often take them to site visits because people learn faster when they see what is happening. And we also make sure that different ULBs come together, they exchange the information, and there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning. Despite that, what my experience has been is that capacity building cannot be a one-off exercise. It has to be continuous over a period of time. Secondly, when you're building capacities of officials, whether it's not homogeneous. So what a frontline worker or a Safai Mitra, as we call them, the kind of capacity building or training or maybe even motivation that they need is very different from what a commissioner who is a decision maker or somebody at the middle level like an executive engineer or a junior engineer needs. So one is that it has to be customized as per their needs. Two, it has to be regular. Three, it has to be linked to on-ground practices. Even if we tell them, okay, this is what is happening in Sweden, this is what is happening in Germany, they'll say, oh, I cannot relate to it. But if we take them to Indore, if we take them to Ambikapur, if we take them to Lonavala, then they say, oh, this is how it works. So we once held workshops with a set of also elected representatives, because they are the people. And as Dr. Sodhi said, is people, person, community. That's at the heart of things. And ULBs work very closely with communities. So we tried to do some workshops with elected representatives on the same pattern that we did with officials. We realized they're very different. Elected representatives want to be heard. They want to say that this is what I did, this is what you can do with me. And they want to see more than hear. So, and so once we did a capacity building workshop, and one of the mayors of a city, she came up and said, okay, we've learned a lot of good things. You had a variety of good experts. But if I want to do this in my city, can you come down to my city and teach me how to do it? Can you tell me where the funds can come from? Can you tell me how do I build an MRF? How do I train my workers? So capacity building has to be linked with practice on ground, and policy has to be linked with evidence on ground. So this is what I think is very important.
If you had to make, a few recommendations in terms of how the government should be spending their money for better plastics management, what would those points be?
See, one of the things I would say is that if you are doing a capacity building exercise for a city, say, for example, you have a certain number of MRFs in a city and you have a system, first study the system, see what are the gaps, and just try to plug those gaps, and then think of your vision for the future. So actually do a project to fill the gaps and have the training for that particular project. Don't just start teaching what is plastic, why plastic. Don't teach theory. They don't want it. They are firefighting every day. Give them solutions, help them to implement those solutions.
Which I presume would mean that a scheme should not be prescriptive, right?
Yeah.
But it should actually just establish a framework in which you can customize solutions according to various needs.
Right,
something
right.
like
You
that.
got
Something
it very
of that
right.
sort. Great. I think we've painted the canvas in an interesting enough way. Maybe not having covered all the issues, but certainly deliberated upon the key ones. Any questions? Questions, thoughts, comments, disagreements, agreements? Yeah. Just put your hand up. I have very poor eyesight, so you really have to, yeah. Sanjay. Yeah. Could we get a mic across here first? Yeah. Sorry, Yogi, I'll come to you in a moment. Yeah.
Thank you.
If you could also just introduce yourself.
My name is Sanjay Kumar Gupta, and I've been working in the sector for last 2 decades. Just one two very simple questions. Do you see the circularity of plastic as an investment challenge or a technology challenge, or both? That's question number one. The second question, probably more controversial. do you really believe that the EPR has worked, or has it been a complete farce? Not just the previous version, but also the newer version of the EPR. Right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for asking those questions. I think all of you would have realized it. I was trying to hide the EPR debate, somewhere there, because that would need another 2 hours, but no, we'll touch upon it briefly. So the first question is fairly straightforward. Is it an investment challenge or is it a technology challenge? And the second, on EPR, in whichever order, or whoever would like to.
It's both.
Mike Lely,
Because
please.
it's both basically the investment. That's what she was telling. Where do we put the money? Because people will first ask and say, where do we get the money? So the investment has to be on the right track. Unless it is put there, the results will not come up. So for which she says the capacity building. So that's something I'm stealing your, so that's it. So capacity building gives a knowledge base where you should see how it works, which is not the visionary for the government. Government cannot visualize that, how it works. You people, the people on the ground have to bring the things to what I saw from the Dalaus, in Delhi. I visited at least, I think, 24 Dalaus, 24 areas, 24 to 25. We found that the same place, which is completely soiled with waste, can be converted into, because the rag pickers were already there. So then we started the practice. So we have to, one is that, another one is, okay, you have plastic. Plastic is a big thing for technology challenge also. Unless it is properly classified, cleaned, and segregated, it will not work, whether it is for energy, whether it's for recycling, or whether it's for road making. Road making is one major thing, because there again, it's a bitumen base. So the source is same, naphtha. So it's a bitumen. If you understand the plastic chemistry, plastic will blend very well with the road, and the plastic embedded roads are going to be more durable. But unless you are able to do that particular thing in terms of how do you segregate, what is it? And we put some microns, 120 microns. So have we to walk with a screw gauge to measure the microns? That is another problem. When plastic waste rules were made first, at that time itself, I said, don't put thickness and all. We just say class of plastics. The class of plastics we have the classes. The whole globally they do that. That is one thing. So unless you are able to segregate the different class of plastics, for which you need a professional hand, it will not work. And quantum, if we want bigger players, that also is one of my points. If we want bigger players and proper recycling, we need the quantity to be given to them. I found that I've struggled for 20 years, from 2000 to 2023 on electronic waste. But I'm not able to convince one big player in India to come forward. I approached the copper, all the copper smelters, like it is there in the Western world. Nobody had come. So it's not that they say, you bring 140,000 tons per month. That is the input I need for running my smelter. Then I'll put it. Where will I bring? All are distributed in small pockets. So we have to bring that energy amongst the people, that you become a part of the system. So I always quote the Maruti model. Maruti model was, Maruti had to manufacture so many parts. When it came, it was only assembly. Then when they started manufacturing, they brought all the manufacturing units in and around NCR, even including Ludhiana and Patiala and all that. So they all came as shops around Maruti who were manufacturing steering, your shock absorbers, tires, wheel hubs, everything. They were producing, the small producers. Then the assembly was taking place. They didn't have to import. So that model we have to follow for everything. So it's a challenge both in terms of technology and this thing, and apply appropriate technology. Plastic is very risky if you don't apply proper technology. Otherwise, it will go into adverse circumstances. So it is there. That is there. And EPR, lesser said is the better right now.
Ma'am, we'll just come back to EPR later.
Investments, investors are afraid of investing for one reason or two, that is risks. If the risk is well defined and mitigation strategy is there, investments are always there. And investments for the right technology is always considered to be the best. But what is that optimal level of technology investments? Now, if you try and see that we have state-of-the-art artificial intelligence managed MRFs, it's not going to be conducive, because we cannot throw away with the informal sector out. We have to make them a part of the system and then run the system. And over a period of time, they will gain skills. And those skills will then bring product efficiency. So MRFs are not only collection. I was trying to say that earlier. It defines how the input and the output relationship. An MRF will be a very successful one when it starts monitoring what material is coming, at what price it is coming, what material is going, what price it is going, real-time data. We have done real-time data, which is put into the system and computerized. We have dashboards there. Every day the data is filled up. It comes to me, how much is the cost differences. And sometimes, you know, all the time you cannot have a high profit on one product and low profit on all other products. It varies. And that's where the whole game of the MRF is, that you have to take everything in, and some will go at a higher price, some will go at a lower price. So that is what the government is also interested in. That is where the EPR was also introduced, but come later on that. So I think so, the technology has to be in our systems. I'm not saying it should not be modern. It can be modern, but it is over a period of time that needs to be brought in. It cannot be day one you start using technological sensor-based determinants that will determine the output. I mean, yes, Indore is a brilliant model. Indore city is brilliant. The model is that 60% of the material is going to end of life cycle. It's not getting into a material recycling. 70%, 60% of the waste, it is zero waste, but it is going for end of life. So where lies the circularity in the system? Nowhere. You can also do that. I'll put an MRF. I will tie up with a good cement plant. मैं तेरे को माल भेजता हूँ यार सारा free of cost भेजूंगा. तो मेरे को EPR का certificate दे देना, मैं वहां से 4 रुपए ले लूंगा. So that sort of an investment not getting into the system is what is a problem. EPR as such is working. Now, of course, there were problems, and CPCB has come and fined more than 1,000 crores to some of the waste processors. I don't want to take names. It's in the public domain.
Parvita, anything you'd like to add?
I'd like to add one layer, maybe say, for example, best case scenario where we have the resources and we have the technology. So there, when we are talking of urban local bodies, procurement becomes one of the layers that need to be addressed. So if there is a technology available, and first of all, it has to, if you are looking at the cost effectiveness part of it, it has to be at scale. But before it's scaled up, it needs to be piloted somewhere, like from the lab to land. And for piloting new technologies, procurement plays a very big barrier. Like most of the procurements are not performance based. So we need to have procurement guidelines that are performance based. Then probably we can find a solution somewhere.
Thank you so much. Vijay Kapoor.
Thank you very much, and my compliments to the panelists for actually a very insightful discussion. And thank you to Mr. Patara for moderating it excellently. It actually goes a long way for the organizers to have picked such an illustrious panel. And now the disclaimer and the postscript, I belong to the same organization. So it's not really a pat on our backs. My name is Brigadier Yogesh Kapoor. I am also associated with Development Alternatives. Given my background, I don't know how many of you read the headlines a year back which said that the stockpiles of tungsten stands depleted. That was when the Ukraine-Russia war broke out. And when you actually juxtapose what is happening between Israel and Hamas, there is hell to play for that metal, tungsten. And for golfers like me, we understand what depletion of tungsten would do. It's not only that, plastics is ubiquitous. We are aware of it. I don't know how many of you, and I'll take you to a different dimension from which I belonged. weapons have a huge amount of plastics. About 40 years back, when we were designing carbon-carbon composites, you came up with polymers, ceramics, alloys. So you have something called carbon fiber reinforcement plastics. Those are in your weapons because they are very hardened kind of plastics. Now, whilst we as civil society are debating what must happen to cities and recycling of plastics, but we also know, for the informed mind, what makes the world go round. What is the US interest in Ukraine and Russia or in Israel, Hamas? It's the war economies. And the more plundering that takes place around the world, more plastics will be used. Are we talking about recycling those kind of plastics? How are you going to extract it? That particular plastic is also being embedded in the ground. And all that you spoke about, how are you going to let the water flow in and, quench the thirst of Mother Earth and things of the sort? So this was just a generic point, but thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, please.
I must congratulate the Indian Army. We work in Jammu, and you will be very happy to hear, and so will the audience. We work in city of Jammu, and where a lot of brigades are there, or the army units are there. So पहली बार हमने आर्मी से उन्होंने कहा कि देखिए हमारे पास एक ट्रक लोड है ड्राई वेस्ट का, हमने बड़ा नीटली पैक किया हुआ है, आप ले जाइए. तो हमने कहा आप भेज दीजिए हमारे पास, हम ले लेंगे, वी विल रिसाइकल, वी विल गिव यू अ ग्रीन क्रेडिट आल्सो. इट वाज ब्यूटीफुली पैक्ड एंड नाइसली केम आउट. दैट कमांडेंट, I don't want to name him, it will be unfair, but a fantastic officer. You know what he did? What he did, he said कि सारे जवानों को सारी यूनिट में जो भी दूध इस्तेमाल करता है वो वॉश करके नीटली पैक करेगा, नहीं तो उसको दूध का अगले महीने कूपन नहीं दिया जाएगा. आप फ्री देते हैं ना उनको. तो मैं गया यूनिट में, देखा दुखा, तो मैं देख के हैरान हो गया, इतने बंडल भरे हुए हैं, ब्यूटीफुल LDP, absolute pouches, milk pouches, and very good quality, and you can turn them off. So मैं बात ये इसलिए कहना चाह रहा हूँ, और उसने हमें पूरे के पूरे पता नहीं मेरे ख्याल 50 बैग होंगे बड़े बड़े, और मुझे आज तक ये नहीं पता था आर्मी में कि हर वीक आपको 2 बॉटल मिलती है. तो मुझे पता लगा कि वो प्लास्टिक की बोतल होती है रम की, और वो भरी हुई बोतलें HDPE की, फर्स्ट क्लास, नीटली पैक्ड. एंड so what I'm trying to bring the whole idea behind is, if army can do what a disciplined way, both of you touched this, Pat, you did, and every day I hear this. It is the discipline we don't want to enforce in our systems. If army can do that in the unit, उसने साफ ही कह दिया, कहता मैं अगले दिन तुमको मुफ्त में नहीं दूंगा, अगर तुम ये नीटली पैक्ड, मेरे को 30 के 30 चाहिए. अगर तुम आधा किलो लेते हो, अगर 1 किलो लेते हो तो मुझे 60 चाहिए, और वो 60 से 1 भी कम होगा, उतने कूपन कम दूंगा आपको. Mind you, beautifully tucked up, neat and clean. Why can't we do this? We have to get the army to teach us all. Thanks to you, sir. Congratulations to you and your alma mater. Fantastic work. तो हमारे पास बड़े यूनिट से, तो मेरा पार्टनर है, तो मैं उसको बोलता हूँ तेरे को अच्छा प्रॉफिट हो रहा है, तेरे को माल आ रहा है, नीटली पैक्ड आ रहा है, सारा कुछ वे है, और हम, मैंने कहा कम से कम उनको ग्रीन क्रेडिट तो दे दे. अब तो गवर्नमेंट ने भी डिक्लेयर कर दिया फ्रॉम एंड टू एंड 4.2 kgs is the CO2 emission check for every kg of plastic. But even if you give 3 kgs per kg of plastic, because you are not taking the production and the other transportation measures into it, तो उसको कम से कम एक ग्रीन सर्टिफिकेट तो हम दे दें यार. तो मैं UNDP में था तब, तो ये चीजें होनी चाहिए, और ये इंसेंटिव मिलना चाहिए. ये this, and people now, green credit is coming into the picture, moderations are happening, laws are coming into the point is mindful consumption नहीं आ रहा. हम अपना, जो आपने कहा था ना अभी कि हम कभी मुफ्त में देंगे, हम उसके पीछे पैसा क्यों मांगते हैं? हम पेपर होता है, you would be amazed. ये white paper है ना, what is the collection of this white paper in India? It's 4%. 4% white paper collection only. And newsprint 92%. क्योंकि हम उसको इकट्ठा करते हैं, बेच देते हैं. ये क्या करते हैं, जैसे ही वो आप फाड़ के कचरे के डब्बे में, वो गीला हो गया, सत्यानाश हो गया. वो उठ के वहां चले जाएगा and then it becomes a landfill. And white paper, we are importing 4 million metric tons every year. Sir, अभी तो बढ़ गया होगा, ये 2019 का फिगर है, तो अभी तो और बढ़ गया होगा with the rate of change. And we are importing all this and putting our hard-earned money into the imports. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it's 5:15. We should end in a few minutes, but if there are any burning questions, then yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I am Sagar. I run a small company. So my humble, question is that the plastic, if it is fresh, it is recyclable. Even it is, bigger size, it can be recycled. But what about the plastic bags? It is just like nuclear waste. So if it gets stuck into somebody's cattle, grazing and get into it, it's very harmful. Now, how to get rid of this? Do we have some RD centers to make it more useful? Or still the water bottles are recyclable and they make a yarn out of it? How far we can go to hunch the recycle of plastic bags? Or, nuclear waste is also a very big problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And by plastic bags, I presume you mean the poly bags, the shop. Yeah. Okay. Any quick thoughts on that? But with
Polyethylene is basically
Lakshmiji, mic le lijiye. And if you'd like
Polyethylene is actually recyclable, provided I told you the one missing link in the whole system is a collection system. After a post-consumer activity, any material for that matter, plastic, electronics, everything, if we have a kabadi wala or somebody who is able to collect it, the kabadi wala also refuses. I can understand that. But if you tell him, I'll give you 5 rupees, you take this plastic. That's the thing. But the thing is that we have to incentivize them to take it so that it is channelized for recycling. All the polyolefins are recycled. 100% recycled. And they can be made into almost like a virgin product. So as far as the quality of plastic is concerned, it's a polyethylene. It's upcycling is also there.
Upcycling is also happening. There are a lot of, although it's a small,
it's
community that is doing.
But it's not widespread. It needs to be widespread. And the facilitation will be, if you want to have it have the upcycling in a larger scale, we need to have a proper collection system. So nobody discards that. They just, what Sodhiji was telling about the paper, the polyethylene, small poly bags are all put with the trash. So the trash, they sometimes remove the degradable, biodegradable, they sometimes keep it along with it. Then it becomes a mess. So otherwise, polyethylene is absolutely recyclable. We should put for recycling so that we don't make more polyethylene. So the other side, the corrupt side is that we should stop the manufacture of these things so that we are in a position to.
Just to add to what they are saying, ये इसलिए फेंका जाता है क्योंकि इसका weight कम है सर. तो सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम गवर्नमेंट को अभी उन्होंने 120 माइक्रॉन्स तो कर दिया है. We were pushing it for 150, 200 माइक्रॉन. I was pushing for 150. मेरे पास अभी भी कंप्यूटर में सारी डिटेल है कि एक बैग का वेट कितना होता है. तो लोगों ने कहा जी हम अपना प्लास्टिक रिडक्शन कर रहे हैं. कंपनीज ने हमने कैसे रिडक्शन कर रहे हैं जी. हम तो 20 ग्राम की बोतल बनाते थे, 18 ग्राम की कर दी, 2 ग्राम कम कर दिया. अरे 20,000 बोतल भी तो ज्यादा बना दी, तो और प्लास्टिक आ गया मार्केट में. सो जब वेट हो जाएगा ना, प्रॉब्लम पता कहाँ आती है प्लास्टिक की. हमारी प्रॉब्लम यही है सर. आप आर्मी रूल करा दो किसी दिन जो तो डिसिप्लिन, मेरा मतलब है डिसिप्लिन करा दो. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि हमें आर्मी रूल चाहिए. आई एम सेइंग डिसिप्लिन. इफ द डिसिप्लिन इन द सेम पीपल कैन कम देयर, देन व्हाई नॉट हियर. सो डिसिप्लिन लाने के लिए हमें 1 किलो का बैग होता है, उसमें 2 किलो थैले में भर देंगे, तो वो उसकी कैरिंग कैपेसिटी 1 किलो की है, 2 किलो भरा, वो फट गया, वहीं फेंक दिया हमने. ठीक है. और जो वो मार्केट में मिल रहा है वो सारा रिसाइकल्ड वाला है, कंटेमिनेटेड है, अंदर से उससे निकल रहा है. द पॉइंट व्हिच आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज दैट इफ वी बिकम डिसिप्लिन्ड इन द यूज ऑफ बैग एंड देन द थ्रो अवे कल्चर इज ऑब्लिटरेटेड. हमारा बैग खराब हो जाता है, हम जेब में क्यों नहीं रख सकते, उसको कार के बाहर क्यों फेंकते हैं. हमने अभी बस्तर में, हम जगदलपुर में काम कर रहे हैं, एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ। जगदलपुर में मैं गया तो डीसी के साथ हम काम कर रहे हैं, तो उसके साथ मैंने देखा यहाँ तो जैगुआर भी घूम रही है, यहाँ तो BMW भी है। तो मैंने डीसी साहब को कहा, मैंने कहा सर आप इतना अच्छा काम करा रहे हैं, हमारे को इतनी मदद कर रहे हैं, आप हर गाड़ी में ना जो गाड़ी निकले उसके अंदर एक बास्केट रखवा दीजिए। नो व्हीकल विल बी रिलीज्ड बाय अ डीलर अनलेस दैट ट्रैश बास्केट इज देयर, और वो मैंडेटरी कर दीजिए। कहते ये तो मैं अपनी जगह में है, कर दूंगा सोडी, कल ही कर दूंगा। उन्होंने डील मीटिंग बुलाई सबकी और सबको बोल दिया जो गाड़ी निकलेगी उसमें ये बास्केट होनी चाहिए और वो लोकल मेड होनी चाहिए, बिकॉज बस्तर इज हैविंग लॉट ऑफ बैम्बू, लोकल आर्टिजन बनाते हैं। मैंने कहा सर उनकी लाइवलीहुड भी बनेगी, कोई तो बनाएगा, कोई तो बेचेगा। What the point which I was trying to drive? No, that means the collector has a power to do it. He has done it and shown the way and highly publicized in the media. It is for us people to take care that उस basket को खाली करें, ना कि उसको ड्राइवर आए उसको basket को उठाए वहां बाहर फेंक दे, सड़क पे फेंक दे. We have created more chaos. So that unless we don't change the behavioral pattern into the system, that time till then nothing is going to happen, sir. With due regards, आप प्लास्टिक को सड़क पे ही देखेंगे, क्योंकि एक बैग की वेट 3 ग्राम है तो 25 रुपए किलो बिकता है LDP मार्केट में. आज मार्केट में, सेकेंडरी मार्केट में 25 रुपए किलो, प्राइमरी में जब जाता है दाना भरने के लिए 45 रुपीज है उसकी कॉस्ट. तो वो मटेरियल सब इकट्ठा कर देंगे. अगर उसको 50 करने पड़े, अगर उसको 500 करने पड़ेंगे 25 रुपए के लिए, तो कोई नहीं करेगा. वो वैसे ही पड़ा रहेगा, हम उसको फेंकते रहेंगे जब तक हम अपनी आदत ना बदल लें कि भाई नीचे नहीं गिराना उसको. आर्मी कॉलोनीज में तो मैं कभी नहीं देखता, बार बार आपका नाम याद आया.
Very good. Okay. Were you about to say
No,
something? Yeah.
I was just about to say कि capacity building should not be limited to only officials, but with people, because lifestyle for environment, the life mission, उसका main यही है कि we need to change people behavior, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. It will take time. We have to be patient. Those of us who are in this capacity building business, we have to be patient to show results. That's what I was trying
Very
to
good.
say.
Thank you. We'll have to be very brief with
Yes,
the
I'll just
questions,
ask a question.
And in your responses, if you, because we do need to close now, if the panelists would just like to share some concluding thoughts, that would be very useful. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So my name is Yuvraj. I work at WWF for circular economy, and I've also been fortunate enough to be ma'am's Dr. Gupta's student in TERI. My question is just in relation to what was discussed in the previous question about recycling, defining recycling for circularity, specifically upcycling and downcycling. Because a solution like making polymers out of PET or using plastic for road construction, which eventually leads to microplastic entering into the nature, can that actually be termed as upcycling, which it is being termed as upcycling right now?
Very good. If there are any thoughts on that point, but otherwise, yeah.
Anyway, he's my student. He was my student in his master's, and he has always been like this, asking questions. So that's what I like as a teacher. But here, what you are asking as a definition for upcycling, but basically certain things you qualify. That's why I said first thing is you have to qualify the plastic, whether it's recyclable, whether you have to only convert it into an energy, or whether you have to only embed it in the bitumen to make it into road, where it will have no property to enter into the environment. So there are ways and means by which it will not come into the environment. That is what we see. First thing is we should not allow it to come into the environment, whether in the form of emissions or whether in the form of soluble material. So it has to be that is the first thing. So qualifying the plastic is very important. That's what we want to know. How do we do it? But collection system is something which is lacking. Once we collect, then we'll have that, just like kabadi wala will take care, plastic alag, glass alag, usko साला मिला के बोरी में ले जाएगा, पर वहां जाके तो वो करेगा. So his skill is there, so we can use that skill. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess we need to close now. We'll be running out of time. Just a quick round of thoughts, and if you there are no quick wins. I think the subject that we're discussing is complex, right? It's at a magnitude which makes impact foreseeable only over maybe 8 to 10 years. Right? It'll take time. It's complex. It's difficult. But the question is, if it's possible to demonstrate success, then is there something that can be done, which would be in the nature of a breakthrough that might not already have happened? I mean, we have some examples that you referred to, but if you had a wish in terms of a new kind of breakthrough, what would that be in this area? Again, in whichever order.
Just too quickly, I'm going to give you a question. So, I must quote you that Jal Shakti Ministry has developed a rural wash partners forum in which they have identified 12 different problem areas. And those 12 are like grey water management, water quality, plastics, and open defecation, and fecal sludge management, and so on and so forth. They did a program last year in March. They made a system, and then they floated it to the public, and people represented their case and applied against that. Then they did the selection process, and they have made 12 partners. And those are, we are for plastics for Pan India, and we are talking on various modems on that. But I would like that if DA, with such a great experience and such beautiful interlinks that you have created over the period of time of 40 years, if you can develop some 12 partnerships or 5 partnerships and identify the problem area, and then really link with academics or army and other sources, that will give us a good program. Don't forget me, huh?
If you want to do that, I'm sorry, I just jump in for 30 seconds. This diagram that you showed here, it reminded me of something that we do in our entrepreneurship program to, again, create new business models or discover. It's called Kaun Banega Business Leader. And we ran it in Jhajjar, in a fairly traditional community for women. And through dialogue, the women had identified 12 problems that they would like the new business ideas to address. And just to give you one example, the problem was alcoholism among the men. And the winner in that category was a lady who said she'd like to set up a kombucha making unit. The idea being that, tasty kombucha with a little bit of fizz in it would, replace alcohol. But what's very interesting, I thought was even more interesting than that, when she started producing it with a little bit of information expertise, she discovered that making organic detergents and cleaners would actually be a better product. And she now has a thriving business in selling, organic floor cleaning liquid and that. Right?
So that's what I said was that you talked about the partnerships. If the government is today coming up to link up civil society, all of them are foundations and civil society. If the government is coming forward to develop partnerships, then it's all the more good that we who are in the civil society front should leverage more and make governments responsible at the city level or whichever. Thanks, please.
Yeah. So for me, it would be, I know that around innovation, there's a lot of academics and industry partnerships that's happening. But when you have to, roll out those innovations, you need the city government and the state government. So I would say partnerships again, but with the government and with cities at the core of it, because ultimately it's going to be rolled out at the city level.
A little bit beyond partnership, hand-holding requirements. In many places where we should really find the deficiency, the government should come forward for hand-holding, not a mass level of activity. So that, I think, as the citizens of the country, we should be able to identify the groups who need that kind of a hand-holding, and so that the resources are not pumped into the wrong hands. So once there is hand-holding capacity and a demonstration which can be replicated. That is the only way. Aping, imitating, just monkeyism. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. If I could add another R because of what you said, beyond partnerships, maybe we need to move from partnerships to relationships, right? Marriages that last for a long period of time between different actors. But thank you so much. I don't think the applause was adequate, so we need to, for our panelists, thank you so much. Dr.
Thank you
Pratik,
so much,
for
everyone,
sorry, sir. Yeah.
for such insightful discussion and thought-provoking ideas and suggestions. I request Pat to please felicitate our distinguished guests.
Swayam, why don't you join
Yeah.
Stella? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a few recycled papers. Thank you. Thank you.
Can we have a group picture? Dr. Swayam and Sheila, if you can join us.
Let me go up that side, because otherwise we'll have.
We need to come here? Yeah, we can just move with it. It will be easier for him to take it.
Thank you.
Last word, we are all old people, at least myself and Bobby. We would like the younger generation to join in the mission and take it forward.
Yeah. We have. I now hand over to Ms. Sheila Sam, Head Communications and Impact and Associate Vice President, Development Alternatives Group, to give a closing remark and vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much to take your time out in this Diwali pre-week and to attend the event. And I hope everybody had a learning for this. I like to thank the esteemed guests and panelists who also meandered through the traffic to reach here. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful event, and I'm sure all the social media posts and the media, this thing would tell the world how it has gone. I request now everybody to please partake some tea. And thank you once again. Have a great evening and a happy Diwali to everybody. Thank you.
Happy Diwali. Green Diwali. Marty, can we save this for everyone while we're having tea?
I request everyone to join us for tea.